Eli was a human technician, young and quiet, assigned to a research station far from Earth. The place was cold, really cold, and stood on an icy moon called Navarre 3. Most of the crew were human, but some were not. The Galactic Alliance wanted species to work together and learn from each other, so every few months, new alien crew members arrived. This time, Eli was told he'd have a new roommate. Her name was Lyra. She came from a soft-voiced alien species called the Nari. They looked almost human, but had soft gray-blue skin and glowing eyes that changed color, depending on how they felt. They were new to space travel and still learning about human habits. Eli didn't think much of it. He just hoped she wouldn't snore. He met Lyra in the evening when she walked into their shared quarters. She was small, calm, and carried a single bag. Her eyes were light blue, which meant nervousness in her language. She bowed her head slightly and said, "I hope I am not a burden." Eli smiled. "Nah, it's fine. Welcome. Bed on the left is yours." She looked around the room, then stared at the two small beds. They were placed close together, with only a thin gap between. Eli unpacked his tools while Lyra sat quietly, watching him with curious eyes. The day went by without any trouble. They had dinner in the common room, exchanged a few words, and returned to their room. Eli changed into his sleeping clothes and lay down in his bed, pulling the blanket over his shoulders. He closed his eyes, ready for sleep. But then the bed dipped. He opened one eye slowly and saw Lyra lying beside him, under the same blanket. He blinked. She looked at him with soft golden eyes, now her pupils color for calm. "I read humans sleep close to others. I did not wish to be rude." Ellie's mind raced. Was she joking? Was she testing him? Or did she really believe? That she didn't seem embarrassed. In fact, she looked peaceful. "Right, yeah," Eli mumbled. "That's normal." He turned his face away. Wide awake now. Lyra didn't touch him, but her presence was warm. Navarre 3 was freezing at night, and the station heaters were often weak. Eli felt the chill on his toes, but warmth on his side. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the generator. As minutes passed, Lyra slowly drifted off to sleep. Eli could hear her breathing. It was soft, like wind moving through leaves. He couldn't sleep. Not at first. He kept thinking about what she said. "I read humans sleep close to others." Where did she read that? What kind of books or guides were given to her people? He chuckled quietly. Maybe someone had written a joke article that the Nari thought was real. Or maybe her people just believed closeness was a sign of trust, and she didn't want to be rude. Whatever it was, Eli didn't feel the need to correct her. Not yet. The next morning, when he woke up, she was still there. She looked at him and gave a small nod. "You did not move much. You sleep well," she said. Eli sat up and stretched. "Thanks." Lyra stood and began to fold the blanket, neat and precise. "I will make breakfast." Eli watched her walk out of the room like it was the most normal thing in the galaxy. And maybe, just maybe, he didn't mind it. Eli thought the first night had been a one-time thing. Maybe Lyra had been nervous. Maybe she didn't know better. Maybe she'd stay in her own bed the next night. But that didn't happen. On the second night, Lyra quietly walked into the room after dinner, folded her clothes neatly, and slid right into Ellie's bed. No hesitation. No questions. Eli blinked from his spot by the wall. "You ate, Lyra?" he asked softly. She looked up, already pulling the blanket up to her shoulders. "Yes, you're here again." "Yes," she said with a nod. "As I said, humans sleep together for safety, warmth, and trust. I will continue until it is no longer needed." Eli scratched the back of his head. He thought about correcting her again. Thought about telling her most humans had separate beds unless they were, well, close. But the room was cold again, and honestly, her presence made the long night less lonely. So he just nodded slowly. "Yeah, okay. That makes sense." And just like that, it became their habit. During the day, they worked in separate departments. Eli repaired station panels, systems, and drones. Lyra helped in the science wing, observing plant growth in zero gravity. But each night, They ended up in the same bed, side by side. She never asked questions. She never made it weird. Sometimes she'd talk about her homeworld, a peaceful place with glowing forests and soft rivers that sang like wind chimes. Sometimes she'd hum those songs when she couldn't sleep. Eli started looking forward to that sound. It calmed him. As the week passed, Eli noticed things he hadn't before. Lyra laughed without sound, her shoulders shaking slightly. She always watched people carefully before speaking, trying to understand before she joined in. And when she smiled, really smiled, it was soft, warm, and rare. One day in the mess hall, Eli sat with some of the human crew. One of them, Mark, nudged him with a grin. "So," Mark whispered, "you and the new girl sharing a room?" Eli blinked. "Yeah, we're bunkmates." "Just bunkmates?" Mark asked, raising an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" "People talk, man. She follows you around like a shadow." "And someone saw you both leave the garden dome together last night." Eli looked down at his tray. "We were just looking at the plants. She likes quiet places." Sure, Mark chuckled. "You're a lucky guy." Eli didn't answer. He finished his food quickly and left. Back in his room that evening, he found Lyra sitting on his bed. She held a small data tablet and was reading something. "What are you reading?" Eli asked. She turned the screen toward him. It was an article titled, "How Humans Show Affection, 5 Habits and Meanings." Ellie's eyes widened. "This came from your planet's culture database," Lyra said. "It says holding hands means trust. Sharing sleep means connection. Physical touch means care. Is this true?" Eli swallowed. Well, kind of. Depends on the person." "Do you not want this?" she asked softly, tilting her head. "I did not wish to make you uncomfortable." Eli looked at her eyes. They had changed from pale gold to a soft green, her species sign of concern. "No," he said quickly. "It's not uncomfortable. I just didn't think you knew." She nodded slowly, then looked back at the tablet. "I wish to learn. I want to understand you better. Humans are different, but you are kind." Eli smiled, unsure what to say. So he just sat beside her. That night, as they lay in the same bed, Lyra spoke again in the dark. "Eli, yeah? Do you miss Earth?" He took a deep breath. "Sometimes. I miss my dog. I miss coffee shops, the smell of rain." Lyra nodded. "I miss my river, the glowing fish, the sound of the sky trees." They were quiet after that. But the silence wasn't empty. It was calm, full. And as the stars outside blinked, beyond the frozen windows, two very different beings lay side by side, not just because of custom anymore, but because it felt right. The research station on Navarre 3 was isolated, far away from Earth, far away from other planets. The cold wind howled outside, and the icy ground creaked beneath the station. The crew had little to do but work and wait for new supplies and messages. Sometimes the loneliness was heavy. One evening, the station announced a severe storm was coming. The warning told everyone to stay inside their quarters and conserve energy. The power might flicker, and the cold would get worse. The crew prepared for a long, dark night. Eli and Lyra were already in their room when the alert came. Lyra looked worried. Her eyes flickered to a soft blue, the color she used when she was scared. Eli noticed and pulled an extra blanket from the closet. "Here, take this. It'll help with the cold." She smiled faintly, taking the blanket and wrapping it around her shoulders. "Thank you." As the storm raged outside, the station's power dimmed. Lights flickered, and the usual hum of machines lowered to a quiet buzz. The room grew colder. Eli felt the chill at his feet despite the heaters. Lyra moved closer to him. "I do not like the cold." Eli nodded. "Me neither." She hesitated, then slid onto the bed beside him. "May I?" Eli looked at her, then at the small space on the bed. It was tight but warm. He nodded. She curled up close, her skin cool but calming. Eli put his arm around her without thinking. She leaned into him, and for the first time, Eli felt a soft wave of comfort in the cold. They sat silently, listening to the wind scream outside and the metal walls creak. Lyra whispered, "In my home, we share warmth during storms. It helps us feel safe." Eli smiled gently. Sounds nice. After a while, Lyra spoke again, voice barely above a whisper. Eli, I want to tell you something. Eli turned to her, curious. On my planet, she said, not many pay attention to my kind. We are quiet, small, not strong like others. Sometimes we feel invisible. Ellie's heart tightened. He reached out, taking her hand gently. You're not invisible here, he said softly. Her eyes glowed bright for a moment. Thank you. The night stretched on. The storm outside seemed endless, but inside the small room, something else was growing, something warmer than the heaters, stronger than the cold. Eli found himself sharing stories with Lyra about Earth, about his childhood, about the small things that made him happy. Lyra shared her own stories, the glowing rivers of her homeworld, the songs her people sang during the long nights. Sometimes, when her voice trembled, Eli would squeeze her hand. She would look up at him, eyes filled with gratitude. They slept that night side by side. But now, the closeness was no longer just a custom or a mistake. It was a choice. The next morning, the storm had passed. The station powered up fully. A guy. And light shone brightly, and warmth returned. But Eli and Lyra did not speak much that day. The quiet between them was full, like the calm after a storm. Later, during a break, Eli found Lyra in the small garden dome where plants struggled to survive in artificial light. She was touching a delicate leaf, watching it closely. Hey, Eli said softly. She smiled, turning to him. Hi. Eli hesitated, then said, Thank you for trusting me last night. Her eyes brightened. Thank you for being here. They stood side by side, watching the tiny plants grow. For a moment, the world outside the station felt far away. Eli realized then that the strange habit of sharing a bed was only the start. What was growing between them was something new, something neither of them expected, but both quietly hoped. For after the storm passed, life at the research station slowly returned to normal. The days grew busier as the crew repaired equipment and sent reports to the Galactic Alliance. Eli and Lyra kept their quiet routine, working in their departments, sharing meals in the mess hall, and, of course, sharing a bed at night. The closeness no longer felt strange. It felt natural. One afternoon, Eli found Lyra sitting alone in the common room, reading a small book. He hesitated but then sat beside her. What are you reading? He asked gently. She looked up, her eyes soft and calm. It is a collection of human jokes and stories. I want to understand your humor. Eli smiled. Want to hear one? Lyra nodded eagerly. Eli cleared his throat. Okay. Why did the robot go on vacation? She tilted her head. I do not know. Why? Because it needed to recharge. Lyra giggled, a sound like soft bells. That is funny. Eli laughed too. I'll tell you more. Their friendship grew with small moments like this. They learned each other's language better, not just words, but feelings and expressions. One evening, Eli noticed Lyra watching him closely. Her eyes flickered a strange color, something between curiosity and worry. Eli, she said quietly, do humans always sleep together when they trust each other? Eli thought for a moment. Not always. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on the person. Lyra nodded slowly. I see. Eli reached out and took her hand. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. Sharing a bed isn't required. She looked at their joined hands and smiled softly. I do it because it makes me feel safe. Because I like being close to you. Ellie's heart beat faster. I like it too, he admitted. They stayed like that for a moment, hands touching, eyes speaking without words. Then, the station announced an important event, a welcome party for new alien diplomats arriving from distant systems. The whole crew was invited. Eli and Lyra dressed in their best clothes. Lyra's outfit was simple but elegant, made from shimmering fabric that caught the light. Eli wore his station uniform, freshly cleaned and pressed. At the party, many aliens mingled, sharing food, stories, and laughter. Eli noticed Lyra was shy among the crowd. She stayed close to him, occasionally glancing nervously at strangers. Eli smiled reassuringly. I'm here, he said quietly. As the night went on, a group of diplomats approached them. One was tall and proud, from a species known for their strength and honor. He greeted Lyra with a respectful bow. "Welcome, Nari." "Representative," he said with a deep voice. Lyra returned the bow, but her hands trembled slightly. Eli stepped forward. "She's not a diplomat yet, just a scientist." The tall alien nodded. A scholar. "Knowledge is power." The diplomat smiled kindly. "You are lucky to have a friend like this human." Eli felt a flush of pride. Later, as the party ended, Eli and Lyra walked back to their room. The cold air made them huddle close. Lyra rested her head on Ellie's shoulder. "Thank you for today," she whispered. Eli kissed her forehead gently. "Anytime." Back in their room, Lyra asked Eli, "What does it mean to be friends?" Eli thought carefully. "Friends trust each other. They care about each other. They help and protect one another." Lyra nodded. "Then we are friends?" Eli smiled. "More than friends, maybe." She looked up, eyes shining in the dim light. "Maybe," she whispered. Eli felt a warmth inside he had never known. They lay down together, sharing the bed as always. But now, the quiet closeness carried a new meaning one neither dared to say aloud, but both understood. Outside, the stars twinkled softly. Inside, the hearts grew closer with each passing night. A few days later, the research station buzzed with excitement. A visiting scholar from a distant system arrived to share knowledge about galactic cultures. The crew gathered in the main hall to listen and learn. Eli and Lyra found seats near the front. The scholar, a tall alien with shimmering silver skin, began explaining human customs. Humans, the scholar said, value personal space, but also closeness. Sleeping arrangements vary. Some share beds only with family or close partners. Others prefer separate beds. It is a matter of personal choice. Lyra listened carefully, eyes wide. Eli glanced at her. She seemed tense. The scholar continued, "In some human cultures, sharing a bed means trust and affection. But it is never forced. It is always chosen." After the talk, Lyra looked at Eli. "You lied to me." Eli blinked, surprised. "You said humans do not always share beds," she said softly. "But you also said it is normal for us to sleep together." "I'm confused," Eli sighed. "I did not mean to lie. I just didn't want to make things awkward. I like sleeping next to you. It's comfortable. It feels safe." Lyra's eyes softened. "I feel the same. But I want honesty." Eli nodded. "You deserve that." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Lyra stood. "I will give you space." Tonight, Ellie's heart sank. "You don't have to." But Lyra smiled faintly. "Sometimes, truth needs time." That night, Eli lay awake in his bed alone. The room felt cold and empty without Lyra's presence. He missed her warmth and soft breathing beside him. He thought about their time together. The quiet talks, the shared stories, the gentle closeness. He realized it was more than habit, more than comfort. He cared for her. The next morning, Eli found Lyra in the garden dome. She was tending to the plants, her fingers brushing gently over leaves. "Lyra," Eli called softly. She turned, surprised. "Eli." He stepped closer. "I'm sorry for not being honest before. I want us to be open." Lyra smiled. "Thank you. I want that too." Eli reached out and took her hand. "Can we try again? No secrets." She nodded, squeezing his hand gently. Days passed. Their bond grew stronger. They worked together, laughed together, and shared quiet moments. One evening, Eli found Lyra watching the stars through the window. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "About home," she said, "and about this place, and you." Eli smiled. "I'm glad you're here." She turned to him, eyes shining. "Me too." They sat together, hands touching, hearts speaking louder than words. And when night came, they shared a bed once more, not because of habit or cold or custom, but because they wanted to. Days turned into weeks at the research station on Navarre 3. Eli and Lyra's quiet friendship blossomed into something deeper, though neither spoke its name. They shared more than a bed. They shared hopes, fears, and dreams. One afternoon, Eli was called to the command center. A message arrived from the Galactic Alliance. A new mission would begin soon. The research station would host diplomats from many planets to discuss trade and peace. Eli knew this meant changes. More people, more noise, less quiet. He worried. About Lyra. The days after their ceremony felt different. The station was filled with a quiet joy neither Brent nor Yellari could explain. The bond they had formed was no longer just words or gestures, it was real and deep. Yellari moved through the rooms with a calm confidence. She no longer needed to catch Brent's attention with dropped spoons or spilled cups. Now, their connection was clear in every look, every touch, every shared smile. One evening, Brent was working on a small project near the window. The stars outside twinkled softly, painting the room with pale light. I sat nearby, watching him. "You are very focused," she said. Brent glanced at her and smiled. "I'm lucky to have good company." Yellari's eyes softened. She reached out and placed her hand gently on his. "You have given me much more than company." He turned to face her, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. "Yellari, you have changed my life." She smiled shyly. "And you have opened my heart." As the weeks passed, their routine became filled with simple joys. They cooked meals together, shared stories from their worlds, and explored the quiet corners of the station. One day, Brent surprised Yellari with a small garden space he had prepared. Delicate flowers and plants from different planets grew there, nurtured by both their care. Yellari knelt beside a small purple blossom, her fingers tracing the petals. "This flower reminds me of Zira," she said softly. "It is called the Hope Bloom." "Hope Bloom," Brent repeated. "I like that." Yellari looked up at him, her eyes shining. "It grows where there's trust and love." Brent reached out and took her hand. "Then this garden is full of hope." They spent many afternoons there, tending to the plants and sharing quiet moments. One night, the station's communication system beeped softly. Brent answered, surprised to hear a message from his company. "Brent, we are sending a transfer order. You will be relocated to another station soon." Brent frowned. "When?" "In 2 weeks." He hung up and looked at Yellari. "They want me to move." Yellari stood, her expression calm, but her eyes deep with emotion. "What will you do?" "I don't know," Brent said honestly. "I don't want to leave you or this place." Yellari stepped closer. "Wherever you go, I will follow." Brent felt a surge of hope and relief. "Really?" She nodded. "You are not alone anymore." In the days before the transfer, they packed slowly, sharing memories and plans. On the last night, they sat in the garden under the stars. Yellari leaned against Brent's shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me, for trusting me." Brent kissed her forehead gently. "Thank you for staying, for choosing me." They stayed like that for a long time, the quiet hum of the station their only sound. When the time came, Brent left the station with Yellari by his side. Their futures uncertain, but their hearts sure. As the new station's lights came into view, Brent smiled at Yellari. "We are together. That is what matters." Yellari smiled back, her hand warm in his. To souls from different worlds, bound by care and quiet love, ready to face whatever came next. She was shy, still new to galactic politics. He wanted to protect her, to keep their small world safe. When he told her, Lyra listened quietly. "We will face many strangers," she said softly. "I do not like crowds." Eli smiled gently. "We'll face them together." The day of the meeting arrived. The station was full of guest diplomats in bright clothes, scientists with curious eyes, guards with sharp weapons. Eli stayed close to Lyra as they walked the halls. "Stay near me," he whispered. She nodded, gripping his hand. The talks were long. Speeches filled the big hall. Lyra listened but grew tired. At one point, a proud alien leader approached. He looked at Lyra with interest. "You are from the Nari?" he asked, voice deep. Lyra nodded. "I have heard little of your people," he said. "What do you offer?" Eli stepped forward. "Lyra is a scientist. She studies plants and life. Her people have knowledge that can help many." The leader's eyes softened. "Then you are valuable." Lyra smiled shyly. After the talks, Eli and Lyra found a quiet corner. "Thank you." Lyra whispered. Eli shook his head. You don't have to thank me. We are partners. Lyra looked at him. Partners? Eli smiled. Yes, in work, in life. She blushed, looking away. That night, back in their room, Lyra hesitated. Eli, can I ask you something? Anything. What does it mean to be partners? Eli thought. It means we trust each other. We help each other. We care. Lyra smiled softly. Then I want to be partners with you. Ellie's heart raced. Me too. They shared a quiet laugh. As they lay together, the room warm and peaceful, Eli held Lyra close. Thank you for staying, he said. She whispered, thank you for not correcting me. Eli chuckled. Maybe it's a human custom now. They both smiled, knowing some customs were better when shared. Weeks passed since the big meeting, and life at the research station settled again into a calm rhythm. Eli and Lyra had grown closer than ever. Their bond was quiet but strong, built on trust and understanding. One evening, as the stars glittered outside the station windows, Eli and Lyra sat together in their room. The lights were dim, and the room felt warm with their shared presence. Lyra looked at Eli with soft eyes. Do you think humans will accept me? My people are different. Eli smiled gently. They already do, because you are you, and I'm proud to know you. She reached out and took his hand, her fingers curling around his. Thank you. Eli, you have shown me kindness and patience. You did not judge me. Eli shook his head. I never will. We all have things to learn. They talked late into the night, sharing hopes for the future. Lyra dreamed of helping her people join the Galactic Alliance. Eli hoped to continue exploring new worlds with her by his side. As sleep came, they prepared for bed. The small room now held only one bed, big enough for both. Lyra laughed softly. So, is sharing a bed still a human custom? Eli grinned. It's ours now. She smiled back and climbed in beside him. That night, their hands found each other again under the blanket. Their breathing slowed, calm and steady. Outside, the icy moon's cold winds whispered against the walls, but inside, warmth bloomed. The days ahead were uncertain, but one thing was sure: they would face them together. Eli closed his eyes, feeling the steady heartbeat beside him. Lyra whispered, thank you for not correcting me. Eli smiled in the dark. Sometimes, it's better to learn together. And with that, two souls from different worlds found a new custom, a bond beyond words, beyond cultures. Born from kindness and shared moments, the stars outside blinked gently, as if approving. And the universe felt a little smaller, a little kinder, because of it.